What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm J-Lag.
And I'm NB.
And this episode is recapping and reviewing Riverdale Season 4, Episode 16. And it's called Chapter 73, The Locked Room.
And don't forget, guys, stick around for the ending because we are going to go through our recap roundups, our best moments, our best lines. We're going to go through some of your recap roundups. You guys sent us a bunch on Twitter. So be sure to stick around for the end of the podcast for that.
We also have our contest going on right now for a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card and pop socket. To enter, just rate and comment on our iTunes page and you'll be entered in the draw. We're extending this contest to the end of Riverdale Season 4. As always, to our continuing listeners and our brand new ones, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into this crazy episode, y'all. This is the one. This is the ticket. Guys, listen up because we are going to be breaking this episode down.
Daddy, yes.
Explaining the tea, giving all of the information, and also ripping it to shit. Like, we're doing all of it. Yeah.
So, did you like it? Like, were you satisfied? Were you like, I got all my answers. I'm cool.
You know, I remember I sent you a message yesterday, like as soon as I finished watching it, and I said, you know, I'm actually surprised how airtight their answers are to all of the questions.
Sent me a message at like 9.
Yeah.
He's like, that was so airtight. I'm like, what is he talking about? Like,
she's like, huh?
What?
I'm like, Riverdale.
He's like, Riverdale. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So I enjoyed what they kind of gave the explanation to. There's a lot of comments that I will get to at the end of the podcast, but there were a lot of comments around the fact that they didn't have to do all the craziness to get to this point. And I said this from the beginning, like so many convoluted conversations, plot lines that just like diverted and diverged. And I think it just has to do with the fact that these guys are writing on their feet. They're not writing with a vision. And so they're just kind of like picking up where someone else left off. They're going to like do this. They're going to do this. And then they try to bring it back to like the central idea, but it just didn't need all of the craziness. What did you think?
Honestly, I agree with you. I think even just like overall, I feel like what I anticipated for this kind of reveal to be, it was that DuPont was sort of at the head of it. So I wasn't really gagged at anything. Like nothing really shocked me in a crazy way. But I did like the way they did wrap everything up. They did really, really try to like explain every scene and like justify every moment. Having said that, don't worry, guys, because this is Recap Rewind. We find every motherfucking loophole in every motherfucking moment. And there are some things that J-Lag pointed out to me and that like I did watching it the second time, I did notice. I'm like, but why did they do that? And like that didn't make sense. So we're going to be talking about those things along the way because I do want to like get into that. And I want to know if you guys are thinking the same things because it wasn't perfect, but I will take it.
Yeah. Same. I'll take it. I'll move on. Let's all move on from this big mystery. But at the same time, yes, there were even some major plot holes that they didn't cover up just yet, which I'm interested to see if they're going to do anything about them in the future. But let's get right into it because we're going to do that full explanation. But there are some plot points that happen that I do want to talk to in the beginning. So first, I want to talk about the fact that it starts off with Jughead writing another story, another chapter in his Riverdale book or whatever. And he talks about how he's been dead this whole time and how he's been having to deal with living in a bunker by himself for the past couple of weeks, trying to figure out this murder while everybody above ground was just living life without him. One of the things that we do get to see is he's watching the funeral, his own funeral on camera, which I thought was kind of random that they even put that in there, that he was like he's like, I watched my funeral.
Though? Like, why did he need to watch? Like, everyone else was watching for you, bro. Like, we're good. Like, you don't need to watch your own funeral.
Trust.
Also, how did he have Wi-Fi?
Exactly. You're in the middle of the fucking nowhere.
Like, you're in underground bunker.
You're like 75 feet underground. Like, what do you have that Wi-Fi? Like the Wi-Fi code. Like, what's going on?
See, like, I think it just would have been cute. Even as a writer, I think I would have been like, guys, let's put that in there too. Like, he had a Wi-Fi like hotspot or something, you know? Like,
exactly.
It would have been cute like that if they tied those little things in logistically. I know we're nitpicking, but like, as a writer, I think I would have gotten a little kick out of adding that in for my fans too.
Just the fun. So exactly.
They couldn't say anything then, you know?
Right. Like, there's a Wi-Fi router at the bottom of the stairs or something funny.
Or like he's using a hotspot on his like data or like Betty's data or something. Who knows? Like, you know.
They try to cover up all these things and they're like, yes, I live streamed my death. I'm like, why? Why did you have to say you
Also,
live streamed it?
Do you know how hard it is to live stream in like fucking 1080p, guys? Like that shit was really clear. Like
I need to be
no
like
way.
properly wired connected to my fucking modem to
Yeah.
get even a semblance of a good quality fucking stream.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're on our first point. We got to keep going. So then he has this like quick breakdown of how everybody got involved and how everybody found out. The first person that they talk about is Jellybean, who like she ain't dealing with anybody's shit. She's like, I know you're lying to me. And it's funny because I'm glad, and I'm so glad that they brought these moments up, because there were moments where I'm like, how do these other people not know about this? And even when Betty was like, I need your fake blood, I knew for a fact Jellybean at that point would have asked questions. She's like, why, when it's like not even Halloween, do you need fake blood?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? So it does show the scene where Jellybean's basically like, is this to help my brother? Betty tries to pretend that it's not the case until she has to admit the fact that he's still alive. And then it shows FP kind of getting involved and how he found out. And it happens after they were about to process the fake blood on the rock, and she goes to visit him at the office, and she says, just letting you know, this is what's happening, and I need you to set up this search party. So we now know that FP knew before he set the search party up, and that whole discovery of the body and all that was fake. Then it shows Archie telling Mary, because he like couldn't not tell his mom a secret. And then Veronica had to tell Hermosa because Hermosa was being nosy and super smart about her shit. But real quick before we get into like to move on,
Yeah, this was.
I
really
was
good.
dying of laughter because basically Hermosa goes into Veronica's room and she's like, so did you help Betty kill her boyfriend? And Veronica's like, why would you even think that? And she's like, well, it's because in most cases, secret girlfriends kill the boyfriend so they can be together. And I was like, wow, she's fully thinking that they're lesbians. I was like dead on the floor about it. And then that's when Veronica basically says, I need something from you now that you know kind of what's going on. And that's when she asks to look into the kids from Stonewall. And whatever, Jughead's kind of final scene before it keeps moving forward is he's, like pinning everything to the wall, having his, homeland moment, trying to figure it all out. And Hermosa's information was kind of, as we saw last episode, was kind of the one thing that connected everything together. So now we're pushing to the present, and this is when Betty goes downstairs into the bunker and she's like, are you ready to go? And they're talking about someone, who's just showering up or just getting ready. So you already know that there is some reveal that's going to happen by the end of the episode. Sure enough, we find out that it's FP Senior, but that kind of is alluded in the very beginning of the episode. They don't really leave a lot of mystery around that. Then it cuts to Stonewall. DuPont's teaching a class, and then Jughead just like kicks the door down. And he's like, I'm back again, bitch. And Betty locks up the doors, and they're like, let me explain the entire story to the Riverdale audience because ain't nobody gonna follow this shit
because we're
if we don't
waiting
explain.
and we have the receipts and we're making sure the receipts match up.
Yeah,
you can't
we are
leave
your
Costco
taxes.
until your receipt is looked over. Okay. Goodbye.
Exactly. Yeah, so they lock up the doors, they take their cell phones, and Jughead says one thing that I probably should have known that it was going to go this direction from the very beginning too. He says this isn't a story about murder. This is a story about grandparents and their grandchildren.
For sure.
And literally like zooms in on Donna's face at that point. I should have fucking known.
For sure. And I think I think last week I did mention that she might be DuPont's granddaughter. And
yeah,
so that's where I was going with it. I was like, oh shit, like she's his granddaughter. So that's already where my mind was at. But
there's some connection there. Yeah,
for sure.
Betty says the sins of one generation pass down to the next, cycles of violence, and she knows all about that because she's like the Black Hood, whatever. It's
right.
I did enjoy and I appreciated that because I think that is really like the overarching mystery and the darkness of Riverdale on a general level. It's the generation past and all their fucking sins, and
especially
how
with
it
the
bleeds into
secret
the kids.
society. Like secret societies are all built on like generational connections.
Yeah,
and like
true.
Your granddaddy, your grandma like went there and like she was in it, so it's all connecting those ties. And I liked it. It made sense.
And so he's like, okay, well, buckle up, bitches. I'm going to tell you from the top exactly what happened. But before we get into the breakdown, as a quick aside, as if these people who are full out guilty, they're guilty. DuPont's literally a serial killer at this point. They do not try for 1 second to overpower them and get the fuck out of that room.
You know what?
Like,
I know.
what?
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, guys, they're literally like sitting in their seats as if like their asses are like glued to the chair.
Yeah.
Like you can leave, you can get up.
go.
Like Bughead is 2 people. You guys are like 6 people in the room. Like you guys could have gone up and like tried to attack Jughead. And I kind of was waiting for someone to react. Yeah, like hit her with it, like something. Like they didn't. They just sat there and like basically just listened the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this seems really, really like this would never happen. Like they would get up, you know.
I guess at the same time, I guess we have to just follow the fact that like maybe they were so gagged to see Jughead alive, so they want to kind of understand the story. But also like number 2, like it does kind of feed into the fact that these guys thought that they were the shit. They thought that they knew everything.
They're so cocky and they're so like delusional that like they're like, oh, he's gonna get fucked. We're not. We're good.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we're gonna walk away from this like scot-free anyway, so it's fine. Which is okay. I can take that. So the breakdown. Let's start with this. It's a little convoluted because things kind of go back and forth and back. It took me a long time to write these notes, guys, because I didn't know what were the big like points to cover.
And I know your first point is Moose. But honestly, guys, Moose confused the fuck out of me in all of this.
Yes.
I was like, guys, we didn't need Moose in any of this.
But why Moose?
Sorry. Like, we didn't need him at all. It could have just been Jughead.
They do explain why.
I know.
No, you're actually right. It should have just been Jughead.
Because
you're
even
right.
Jughead says, he's like, even after Jughead's like, then why me? Oh, because I was the bait. I'm like, but why though? Like, it could. But you could have been the kill
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. But I guess they do like angle the fact that Moose was already like isolated. He didn't have any family, so he was like an easy target. Like there was no one out here looking for him.
Why did Chipping want to enlist Moose? He wasn't a good writer. He wasn't anything. So like, why did he even want him to come to the school?
That's what I mean. He was literally meant to be like the sacrificial lamb for the next person to kill.
Oh, but I thought whoever they killed is like they're like in the writing crew. No.
Yeah, exactly. But
Moose wasn't in the writing crew, right?
But it could have been any student. I think like the Stonewall, the people who were missing in the Stonewall 4 or whatever, they were just like random kids in the school class. So yeah, number 1 is Moose was bait to be killed by the Baxter Brothers ghostwriter. So that is like the first overarching point. Underneath that overarching point, there are a few things that you have to keep in mind. Chipping recruited Moose for that reason alone, to be that sacrificial lamb, as I just mentioned. But after Halloween, when Jug was put into the coffin or whatever and Chipping found him, Chipping decided to get Moose and leave and go to the army. He started to like trip out, and I guess that was the reason why he was like, you're in danger, you have to leave, you're gonna die if you stay here.
You know what they should have done? Just to connect the 2 characters, they should have done it where like Chipping was in love with Moose and like Moose was in love with Chipping.
Yeah.
Like I would have loved that connection, and like I would understand why Chipping would choose Moose. Like it just feels so random and like it doesn't make sense, but whatever. It's like a oversight, I guess. I don't know.
And so then after that, he feels really, really guilty after talking to Jughead when Jughead goes to visit his grandpa, and he's like, I found my grandpa, and there's this whole story about, you know, like, so he realizes that Jughead is starting to dig. The assumption at this point by Betty explaining the story and Jughead explaining the story is that Chipping just gained a conscience. He got very tripped out, and that's when he jumped out the motherfucking window. But this is the one thing that I got really annoyed about too, is like these full-grown adults are not telling anything to anybody who needs the information. They're just like jumping out windows for, like, he got to the classroom, looked at Jughead in the eyes, said, I'm so sorry, and jumped out a window and didn't tell him any more information past that.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, it's useless. It's that shock moment that Riverdale gives us, but like, they've done it. It makes no sense.
It just makes no sense.
Like why?
It would have been really cool if like they showed his body like already dead, like on the ground, but then like later it shows one of the kids or even like DuPont pushing him over the ledge, like something like that. Why the fuck would this guy kill himself? Like
it just exactly.
He needs to answer all these questions, so he needs to help Jughead out. Like it just, you're right. Like it's just for the shock value of like having that in the promo or like having that happen in the episode. It just doesn't tie into anything.
Right.
It doesn't make any fucking sense. Like,
and if they made Mr. and also like
better.
the character himself, Mr. Chipping, if he was like neurotic and like a little crazy, especially by the end, I'd be like, okay, he was like losing his mind. But they chose like the most handsome, put
like
together,
sexy,
normal looking guy, and he's like, okay, bye, I'm leaving. And then he just jumps out the window, and these kids are like, okay, he killed himself. I guess we're just gonna have to kill someone else. Like it was just the way that it all kind of got set up. Looking back on it now, I'm like, it still didn't really sit well with me in terms of
agreed.
the explanation's there, but I'm like, okay, let's move on. So it turns out, so Betty kind of made the connection that the reason why Chipping felt that guilt is because he also had to kill someone to get his contract, and she lined it up with someone who went missing when Chipping got the contract. It's this kid named Ryan Allen, and he's one of the Stonewall Four. So with that assumption in mind, that means that there's 3 other people with 3 other ghostwriters that had to kill these people in order to get this contract. And this is when they hypothesize that the real challenge was to create a real murder to win the contract so they'd be worthy of it. This is all apparently according to DuPont's fucking like master plan of manipulation, which doesn't make any sense to me because like no normal person would ever do that. Like Chipping would never, like why would Chipping have ever even gone along with that? Like he sounds like a smart normal person.
I know what you mean, but like I also can appreciate how high the risks are. And like the stakes are really high, and like they do want the ghostwriter position. So like I know it's extreme. Like they're agreeing to kill someone.
They're killing someone.
But it's also like, no, but like I'm buying it. I bought that part. There's a lot of other parts that I didn't buy, but that one I did because they're hungry and they're writers and they want to write for like $1 billion company. Like I get it.
But are they thirsty? They're at a fucking like fancy school. Like they're not that like
I don't know.
The people that are getting recruited are not just like little children from like God knows where. Only Jughead was the one that was kind of standing out. Everybody else is like a ambassador's daughter. Like their lives are set.
True.
Like why do they fucking care about this stupid contract? Anyway, so whatever, DuPont, and that's why anyway, we'll talk about the ending later and so once Chipping died and the contract was then awarded to Jughead, DuPont changed it so that the other Stony kids can conspire to kill him in order to win the contract as like a foursome. So that was like that convoluted explanation as to why all the 4 kids went right after Jughead as soon as he got the award, which we already knew was happening anyhow. Like they wanted to kill him from day one. So Jughead found out once he found his draft in the drawer, and that's when DuPont was like, oh, all the kids were using his original book to write the new one. Like that was the evidence that Jughead realized.
Because he's like, I realized that like they're all in on it. Like they all are a part of this mess. And he's like, they all, conspired to
They all have a stake in it. Yeah, they all have a stake in it. And then Betty's like, but the real question was, who was going to kill Jughead and how are they going to kill Jughead? And this is when things get a little bit weird. So we're cutting to the Ides of March is number 2 on the points list. And it just talks about each person in the crew. So Donna is the one that got Betty to the area, the clearing over Jughead's body with the like dust. Brett is the one that led Jughead to the backwoods, and then Joan is the one that hit him with the rock, and Jonathan was supposed to check Jughead's pulse. But before we go further, can we really quickly talk about the fact that Jughead was the one that initiated Brett to bring him to the woods? So for me, that doesn't really fly.
Because you're right. He comes to the party in his mask. Yeah. He's like, let's go. He takes Brett into the woods. He takes his, like, he changes his, so it's like, yeah, what was his plan in that moment?
Yeah.
Just
like,
to talk?
Because he kept saying, like, oh, I got to get that evidence. Was his point to, like, threaten Brett so he can get the sex tape? Like, that was his end goal, and then instead they ambushed him and then hit him with the rock?
It didn't make any, part
it didn't really connect. And if it was, like, honestly, and I guess it was just, like, trying to create that mystery, even though we knew for a fact that these fucking Stony kids were involved, like, they could have just made it be like, Jughead, come to this party. It's really cool. Like, they could have lured him there. Instead, he had to do it. And then by coincidence, they hit him over the, like, it just didn't really fly that well with me.
I think that's why at the end of all of this, I don't feel like Jughead, like, definitely Betty was MVP, but like, I don't feel like Jughead had any of this. You know, he had no fucking idea what the hell was happening, other than after he woke up after like 36 hours, he was like, oh shit, I better like solve this thing now. Like, I'm running out of time. But like, he didn't have a plan. Like I really would have liked if in this moment after the party, when they walk into the woods, I wish he had a grand plan, and I wish that was all set in stone beforehand. And I would have been like, sick. Like, they ended on top. They had a plan. Like, they were good. But that's not really what happened. And he was just lost at this point. And they had a plan to, you know, obviously hit him over the head at this point.
Right. And and that's what I mean. I just feel like he would have come into this party and he says it himself. He's like, you guys could have gotten away with it. You guys could have killed me 100% and framed my girlfriend, and it would have been over. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, cool. That's shitty. So like, the core force sucks basically. Then. Yeah. Basically. And that's the thing. If you guys remember the Ides of March episode, he turns to Betty and says, don't worry, I got a plan. Like, trust me on this. He didn't have no fucking plan, bro. Like, from day one, like from second number one, he did not know what the fuck he was doing. So it shows Betty being placed in front of Jughead, and then it shows that whole scene where we see Archie checking the pulse. I have to laugh at the fact that Archie literally didn't even read the pulse right. He's like, he's dead. And Betty had to like literally check in and be like, no, he's not dead. He's totally like alive. But I guess he was kind of like in the middle of being alive and dead, whatever. A shout out to Sardonically She, who's one of our Twitter followers, who basically booked that from the beginning, saying that Archie cannot read a pulse at all. He's such a dum-dum. Anyway, so she checks the pulse, and then right away she calls Charles, but because Jughead kind of wakes up and she's like, let me take you to the hospital. And he's like, no hospital.
No hospital for me.
And this is the part that I kind of got annoyed by too, because they make Donna ask the question too. They say, well, why did you even say that? Out of all the things like, to say, why wouldn't you want to go to the hospital? And he's like, I don't know. Maybe it was because I thought you were going to frame my girlfriend for murder. I'm like, what? So while your brains are falling out of your head.
He's concussed. He has a concussion for sure. Yeah. He's like, she might get framed for this murder potentially in 3 episodes. Better not go to the hospital. Okay, Jughead, I'll buy that too. Because your beanie saved your life.
Yeah, for real. So anyway, Betty calls Charles at this point in time. He brings some fancy pantsy medical unit to the
this
back.
Guy obviously doesn't have a job. Like he just works for Betty basically.
Yeah, he's like on call FBI agent for Betty. And you find out that it was the scariest 36 hours of their life because they weren't sure if he was gonna wake up or if he was gonna come through this situation, because he apparently that rock actually did like hit him real hard.
Because he was bleeding. Yeah, like he was bleeding like crazy.
Gushing. So Charles at this moment too, while he's being carted away in this like secret medical box or whatever, he says to them, get rid of your clothes, and just get rid of them right now, like get rid of the bloody evidence and all that stuff. And that's when you see that flash forward where she says, throw out the beanie, we're gonna never talk about this again, all the things that we heard, except now we see the extended cut of it where she says that's the plan if Jughead dies. And I'm like, okay, so you guys were in so much shock that you didn't talk about if he doesn't die, what you guys are gonna do. Like, it was just, I mean, I guess it's this traumatic experience. This bitch is coming off of the drugs that she just snorted. Like, I get it, but it was an interesting play on that. The frustration that I have, which I guess a lot of shows do this, including How to Get Away with Murder, is you don't get to see the full flashback, right?
Yeah, they don't show you the whole scene, and I guess that makes sense. Like, they really can't give it to you all, and they still have to create that scene, and fine.
Yeah.
I'll take that. That's, yeah.
So point number 3 is back in Stonewall, somebody asked the question of what about the coroner's office? Was he in on it too? Because we saw Jughead's dead body. And just like everybody's been saying, because I didn't even want to believe it, but I guess it's true.
Yeah.
This motherfucker is putting on the fake ass makeup and like putting blood on his face
Yeah.
and lying on the table. And the coroner is just like counting the dollar bills.
Counting his fucking dollar bills.
Like I'm like, we should have known. I should have just run with it because clearly that's exactly what happened. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So then it kind of goes back to Mr. DuPont. It all gets redirected to him. And they're like, so Mr. DuPont, what the fuck are we going to do here now? And so they talk more about the fact that the 3 original members of his secret society were all killed by DuPont in a mysterious way. Or they all had mysterious deaths surrounding it. So when they looked into a little bit more, everybody kind of just got picked off by like random accidents, like brakes got pulled, people drowned because there was no oxygen in their tank when they were diving, like so many stupid random things, until there was only the one person left, the OG senior FP Jones, the original Grandpa Jones. And this is the moment where the doors open at Stonewall and OGFP is now face to face with DuPont, his old roommate. And so now he's explaining his side of the story, which I still, again, a little frustrated with this as well. So he goes off by saying one day when he's like hanging out with his family, he's like taking care of his baby FP, and he sees one of the original 3 coming and who came to see him, and he's freaking out and he's paranoid, and he says that DuPont killed the other 2 in the crew.
Yeah.
And he's paranoid, whatever. And FP's like, no, I don't really believe it. It's fine. As soon as that guy died, that's when FP's like, uh-oh, like
Senior
Grandpa FP.
Yeah.
FP Senior. Like he freaks out, and that's when that whole storyline around him being a deadbeat father, going out to buy a pack of cigarettes and dipping is that moment.
He's like, and then I left to get cigarettes and never came back. And FP's like, I'm like, what a dumb ass. Like,
So
why
stupid.
wouldn't you ever tell your wife? Why wouldn't you ever like contact your son later? Like,
Yeah.
there are a million other reasons or like things that you could have done. You know,
To
to
help
not
the
traumatize your
situation.
son,
Yeah.
to not traumatize your family. Like, you fucking up and left. You couldn't
Yeah.
even go to the cops. Like, why wouldn't you
So
just go to
tight.
the cops to be like,
Yeah.
that he's gonna try to kill me? Like,
So then they ask the question, so what did you do for the last like 20 years? He's like, so I spent the last 20 years trying to find motherfucking evidence on DuPont and connecting him to the murders of these
like,
guys.
boy,
I'm
you are
like,
worse than your son as a sheriff. Like,
fucking
don't.
Yeah, you guys do
Don't.
not have the like it skipped like 3 generations.
Yeah.
You do not have the investigative like gene at
Brain.
all. Fucking what a waste, man. Jughead put this shit together in like a matter of 3 weeks.
In like a bunker with a
in a bunker
typewriter.
by himself. You fucking stayed there for 20 years and you didn't figure anything out? Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
And then on top of that, and he does admit to this, he's like, and I didn't even stick around when my grandson came to me with this problem.
Yeah.
Like, man's fucking left again.
I was like, and that's the thing. So I wrote that note down. I was like, this is when Jughead says, he's like, I was invited as bait by DuPont to get Grandpa FP out of
come
hiding
out.
so
Yeah.
he can also get rid of him, which is also what we had assumed from the very beginning as well.
Yeah.
But then I wrote a note that says, so you're telling me they thought this motherfucker would have come out of hiding to save his grandson, who he's never met more than one time.
Seriously.
And then as soon as his fucking grandson finds him in the woods,
He dips.
he fucking dips.
He
Like,
dips.
he fucking dipped on his family again.
Like,
and it was
it's so bad.
like, it's so
bad.
tight. And it was only until Charles found him the second time that he was like,
Yeah.
oh, they done fake kill Jughead? I need to come out of hiding now. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck?
Crazy.
It didn't
pathetic.
make any sense.
Yeah.
So then that's when Charles says, like, while we've been talking, his team, his FBI crew have been raiding DuPont's quarters, his house, and they found all these like trinkets that he kept as a serial killer from the murders that he committed. And then the moment of moments that like gave me the biggest eye roll of all time, DuPont's like getting his back into a corner. There's three of them, okay? Just as an FYI, there's like probably three of them now officially, two of them full-grown adults, like able-bodied men, Charles and FP. And he's like, you'll never silence me. I am an honorable man.
And he starts backing up. He starts like backing up towards like the window. I'm like, oh no, here we go.
I was like, okay, so like 45 seconds of this guy having this conversation and no one's gonna like corner him and turn him around. A teacher literally jumped out that window like 2 months ago. You don't think that he's gonna think the same thing? Yeah. Like, it just it pisses me off that they didn't see it, you know?
For sure. And like obviously he does do that. He runs for the window and fucking cracks his neck and
flies
dies.
Right out. Yeah.
You know? But I just don't get why they just didn't do like the whole like he goes to jail like storyline. Like why not just like send him off to jail? Like why did you have to have him die in such a stupid way where like Jughead and the boys should have known that he's gonna do that? Like
right.
I don't know. I
got frustrated with that too because I was also just like, they don't really get the justice because he gets to decide what he gets to do with his death. You know what I mean? It's that frustrating point.
For sure. And he even says it like at the end when he's running out. He's like, "I'm a man of honor, douche." I'm like, cool. So he died the way he wanted to die. Thanks, guys, for doing fucking nothing.
Nothing.
Like, nothing.
You just uncovered the mystery, but like didn't get his fucking body back in time. Like so annoying. Anyway, so that thing ends, and then it covers all the kids who are now still involved. So Joan, you find out that she decides to dip because she has she's a daughter of an ambassador, so she has like diplomatic immunity. So her story's covered. Donna, she does this like weird cry lie thing, which is what she's been doing this whole time to Charles. And she ended off by saying, like, I'm just so happy that the real killer, like, paid for all of his crimes. And then it never cuts back to her in that interrogation room. So you don't know what she gets. Like, she doesn't, like, she's, at this point in time, you're assuming that she doesn't get charged for anything.
Yeah.
Which is total fucking bullshit.
My other question to you quickly is, like, how did they explain this to the actual authorities? Like, that DuPont did everything? Is that what they ended up saying?
That's what I mean. I feel like Donna is, even though she didn't kill anybody, she conspired against murder, which is still a charge.
They don't have proof on that, like, at all.
But they have the text messages that Joan, like he literally says it to Joan.
Oh, yeah.
I have text messages between you and Thing. And he even says like Donna was the one that was forcing you to do this stuff. And Joan is like, peace, I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but then Donna was still implicated in those things technically. She could still get booked for her texting her being like, yo, kill Jughead. Like, I don't know what it said in those texts, but it just didn't make any sense. Then it shows Brett and he's like acting like a douche as he normally would. And he's like, yeah, you can like fucking like lower my sentence and I'll still like put the sex tape out. I don't give a shit. Charles leaves the room. FP and Jughead come in and it was probably one of the most gratifying moments.
Yeah.
They like beat the living shit out of him.
Well, like all you hear is like one punch, and I'm like, I hope they fucking beat him more than that. Yeah. And then it cuts to like Charles walking back in, and they cut to his face, he's like dead, like he's like half alive. Jughead hit with a rock times like 50 on his face, like it's fucked. Like he looks really bad.
So you now assume that Brett is now going to jail for conspiring to murder. And then the whole kind of story closes off with Alice on her little documentary news report being like, they found the tapes in Stonewall and everything's this and the story is now over. And I love that it's almost like the writers and, I think the show in general kind of show these or write these things in to the it felt like it was to the audience where she says it's good to be back, Riverdale. I'm like, aka it's like good to be back from like to normal life where there's no fucking stupid ass murder storyline happening. And whatever, everybody at the Cooper residence is like clapping. Everybody's so happy. One thing that I wanted to talk about was,
Yeah.
you know, Betty's like, oh, Mom, I'm so proud of you. This was such a good job. You did such a good job with it. And then she's like, well, I had just like an inside source. So
Yeah,
it was
I
like
had an
really
inside
helpful.
sickie helping me out.
Yeah.
And then
so
FP's
then
like, hubba hubba.
he's like, wink, wink, wink. And I'm like, okay, canceled.
Well,
Even Jughead's like, canceled. Like, no one wanted to
They
see the
start
phallus
making
kiss.
out. Literally,
Yeah.
like, this is why I love J-Lac, because, like, we literally have the same brain. His note was, like, literally nobody cares about phallus
Yeah.
anymore.
No one
And
cares.
That's exactly when I saw them making out. I'm like, guys, no one cares about you anymore. Like, you have
Like, move
wasted
on.
too many seasons not fucking that we don't care anymore. Like, it's expired.
It's
Goodbye.
true. It's
We
fucking
don't.
true.
I didn't care.
We
I was
don't
like,
care.
ew, stop. Like, goodbye.
I was like, this is not a moment that's important to me anymore. It was
Yeah.
important 2 seasons ago, but now I don't
seasons
care if you're
ago.
fucking kissing each
like,
other.
you guys have been living in the same house for a full season and you haven't had sex once on screen. Like, priorities,
Yeah.
guys.
Priorities. And now we don't care anymore. And it's just sad that,
Yeah.
you know, you see, and like that, I think this was a moment where I did like look at both of them and I'm like, I wish I did feel something, but I really don't.
For
Like,
sure. And I think it was one of
Phallus
those
was
moments.
lit.
Exactly. We were so, guys, like the litness that we had in season 1 and 2, like, oh my God, the show
Yeah,
would
we made
make us
music
feel
videos.
so, you know, and now it's like, this is what you guys have brought us to. Like, we feel expired. Like, it's expired. We're like, I don't give a shit anymore. Like,
It
she went through the hardest part in her life going to the farm, and he didn't even go and fucking save her. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't even fucking save her. Like, that's not phallus. That's just
Yeah.
shitty writing, you know? Like, it's... Anyways.
And it bums me out too because like if they're supposed to kind of mirror Jughead and Betty, and like how she's the investigative reporter, he's like the gangster, whatever. You don't see that ever anymore because
No,
FP
they
for
don't
one
do
is
that
like
anymore.
the worst fucking investigator of all time, FP. And on top of that, like, yeah, you just don't see any of the chemistry between the two of them except for these random moments. And I'm just like, you guys had to set up that shot of them like, okay, now you're going to kiss Alice. I'm like, why? Why did you have to write that into this fucking script at this point?
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Anyway, moving on to the final scenes. The next thing that we see is Betty saying, I need to cross one more T off my list. And she goes to visit Donna at Stonewall. Turns out that Donna is transferring because she got out of the scot-free. Somehow got out of the scot-free. Still doesn't make zero sense to me how she didn't get any criminal charges. Like, she could have at least said, like, oh, yeah, I got to start my community service next week. Like literally anything.
Yeah.
Anything. This bitch fucking framed somebody
Like,
for
are
murder.
you kidding me? Like, she's
come
gonna
on.
leave like that? Like, ugh, why?
Like, it's stupid. So then you also find out that she's taking over the Baxter Brothers and rebranding as Tracy True, which is also something that we kind of mentioned, like the fact that there was going to be a switch between it was a Baxter Brothers is just really interesting that they brought it back up with Donna being the one to take on the helm. And this is when Betty kind of reveals the fact that they find out who Donna's true identity is and that she's the granddaughter of one of the original Secret Society members, Jane Dallas Brown. And Donna's like, how'd you find that out? How did you know about that? And I was like, is it that big of a secret that you're the fucking daughter of one of the people that went missing and died? So her explanation around all of this is DuPont stole from my grandmother just as he stole from Forsyth. And I put in our notes, then why weren't you guys on the same fucking side?
I know. This made no sense to me.
Why?
Like, I don't get it. So, like, in the end, I'm like, but so wait, like, Donna was evil or she was good? Like,
Right.
how far did she have to go? Because she did have her own revenge plot. So it's like, how far did she have to go to do that? She was literally going to kill Jughead?
Right.
So that makes
and
her
for
evil.
what?
The
like,
fuck?
and that's what I mean. It's just like she's obviously pure evil if that's where her mind went with it. Like, you're going to put all of these innocent people in danger just so you can get the revenge that your grandmother deserved because
it didn't make
fake
any sense.
And also a fucking fake character from a fucking that your grandma came up with like years ago is the reason why you're doing all of this. You're putting real lives at risk because you want to avenge your grandmother's death who who was probably in her late 80s
and also,
at that point anyway.
Girl, you were doing a shitty ass job at it. You weren't even fucking killing DuPont. You were killing
Like-
students. So you weren't even doing a good job of your fucking revenge plot. Like, go watch Kill Bill. You need some notes, girl.
Yeah.
Like, get out of
It's
here.
so true.
She
I'm
could
like,
have
that
killed
was
him
the
so
way.
many times.
Like, you push him out the fucking window. Like, why
Yeah.
are you doing all this? And that's the thing. The fact that she was like, Betty explained, she's like, you covered up your tracks so well and you were able to like get away from this scot-free. Still don't know how the fuck that happened, but sure. And so then that's when Betty goes and she says, if you don't turn down the book deal and just like disappear from life, then she's going to tell everybody that you're the daughter of, or the granddaughter of a woman that was killed that's connected to all these murders.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm
so
like,
tell them.
That's a reach. That's like the biggest reach of all time. She's like, it's all circumstantial evidence anyway that she was around it. It doesn't matter if she...
It's too late now.
if she's
You don't have
connected to it.
any evidence to it. So what? She's the
Zero
granddaughter.
evidence.
Big fucking deal. Like, and DuPont's dead, so like no one's gonna come
Yeah.
after her anyways. Like, it's not like she's like threatened now.
Yeah.
No, it didn't make any sense. And like all
Du-
these fake threats, all these like
Yeah.
fake boss ass moments, I wasn't feeling it at all.
Yeah.
I think I would have really liked if like somehow in the end Donna did come through and like either kill DuPont or like did something really, really clutch.
Right.
To help Betty or help Jughead, because at this point it was a little too like it was so late. She's like, yeah, but I actually was trying to get him killed, so like I wasn't that evil. Bitch, you were evil. Like,
Bitch,
what do
you're
you
evil.
mean?
And that's the thing. Betty, like, did we all forget what Betty was doing like 2 episodes ago where she's like, I'm the daughter of the Black Hood. Don't fuck with me. I'm going to take you down. At the very end, Betty's like, don't do anything. I'm watching you.
Yeah.
And then she walks away. That's her fucking revenge. Like, what?
It
She
was
put her own father in jail
so
for murdering people.
anticlimactic. So
How do you not put this? This bitch was about to frame your ass
She
for
fucking
murdering
blew
your
dust
own...
in your face, bro.
Like, bitch, she was literally
gonna
trying
frame
to take
you
down.
for
Like-
murder. Like, kill her, wax her eyebrows. I don't know, do something. Like, come on.
I'm
She's
dead.
like, don't worry, bitch. I'm watching you.
I'm like,
Okay,
what?
watch me. Like, whoa.
Watch me walk away scot-free, bitch. Like, and it's funny because the final moment, and it's almost the same moment that you see when Betty walks away from her dad when he goes to jail at the end of episode, season 2, and she has that slow motion like, ha ha ha, I got
Smirk.
you, dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was an undeserved slow motion walkout. I was very disappointed.
Yeah,
in
I
this
love
moment.
I love a good Betty slow-mo walkout, but this
Same.
was not deserved. Like, this was not, it didn't
Yeah.
feel like she, like Donna got punishment at all. Like,
No.
she got away with everything.
Yeah, I was annoyed by that. It kind of, the feeling that I felt, I know that this is crossing kind of the other podcasts that we do, but if you guys watch the end of Sabrina season 1, when she's like walking down the aisle with like all the Wicked sisters, and she's like, the song is playing and it's slow motion. I was like, that's how I felt. It's the same feeling that I felt like it wasn't a deserved moment
wasn't
for her to
deserved.
like
Yeah.
have this badass slow motion walk. I'm like, this bitch is not Wicked at all. And Betty was not badass in this moment either. And I was just a little disappointed in Donna's
Like,
revenge.
taking
They
Donna
were,
went to Evelyn, bro. Like
Evelyn.
that's how Donna like committed. She was so committed. She went to Evelyn, Ever Never, to bring your ass down. And you're telling me all you're gonna do is tell her that you're watching her?
yeah. For the psychological trauma that she put her through, making her think that she killed her own boyfriend.
Yeah.
That reason alone, I would have fucking killed her. I'd be like, you made me think that I killed my boyfriend, you piece of shit.
It's just,
like,
it was no. Like, I did not accept that.
Yeah, a little disappointed. So ending that all off, that's the kids. Everything's done. Jughead and Betty are talking in the bunker about the mystery, and it again another moment where I feel like the writers like put this in to be like, the viewers should feel just feel bad for the fact that this storyline got fucking crazy as fuck. Betty says something that I'll mention because it's my best line, but basically Jughead doesn't feel like it meant anything. He was like, why did we do all of this? And Betty's like, well, we helped avenge, like we gave answers to the families who lost these people, and there is an answer and there is help that that came from this. And I'm just like, okay, it's a little weak, but whatever. Then it cuts to school and Cheryl and Betty are talking. So back to regular school life. getting back into regular school life conversations. Cheryl's talking and she says, so Jughead came back from the dead. How am I completely not surprised? And Betty basically says, like, why are you not surprised? And Cheryl says, it's Riverdale. Like, everybody doesn't die in Riverdale.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool.
But
Except
your brother's
when you're
dead.
actually,
so
yeah, I was going to say,
is dead.
except the ones who are actually dead forever.
Yeah.
Like, come on. The one thing that she mentions that I know you want to talk about, my girl, Andy.
So something that we didn't really talk about, like in the beginning, when Jughead is saying his like little intro, he's like, things had to go on as if like I wasn't there. He's like, even my best bud Archie and my girl are together. And I was like, oh shit, like they're still faking this fake relationship. Like why? Like why did they have to keep going?
Yeah. It's true.
So random. Like,
and even
like,
Cheryl asked the same question. She's like, why?
Yeah. She's like, wait, like she's like, but what's happening? Like what happened with that? And Betty was like, no. She's like, that was just fake. Like we're just faking it. And Cheryl's like, nah. She's like, no.
Wink, wink, wink. Okay, cousin, I believe you. Wink, wink, wink. Like, she's like, your secret's safe with me, cousin. Don't worry about it.
I mean, I looked at Betty's face after, and like, it didn't look like she was thinking about anything, or
she was
maybe
like more
they
confused.
Just like, she was more like, bitch, there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, I do hope we get some Archie later on, please.
She does say something that is really interesting. I mean, I guess it's probably maybe for like timing's sake, but Jughead comes out of the room, like out of the office, out of Honey's office, and he says like, what was that about? What did Cheryl want? And Betty just brushes it off right away, and she's like, oh, nothing. You know, it's like nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
Whereas
so she didn't tell him.
Yeah, she could have said, like, so weird and funny, but like
so
Cheryl thinks
true.
that me and Archie are like together still. It was
and
so
I
weird.
definitely think, and that's the thing, like, although we don't see much from Archie and Betty, when Archie grabs Betty's hand in the classroom, Veronica does look a little like I know,
like focuses on her face, like meh, meh, meh.
She's trying to be cheesed, obviously, but like I really think she was cheesed. She was like, oh, like my man's trying really hard for this role. Like, he's like going in on the acting and like the method acting and shit. Like,
the method acting,
you know?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Jughead gets re-enrolled. He's like, I'm not sure if the credits will transfer or whatever.
Obviously it will, because it's Riverdale and everything works out perfectly in the end.
Yeah. So back at the Cooper residence, it shows FP bonding with FP Senior, and it's a really cute moment where they're talking. Jughead comes in and he pulls Jughead aside and he's like, you know, thank you for doing all this. Without you like kind of pushing through with all of this moment with my father would not have even happened. And so he's just like happy about that. We'll get to FP at the end, but I definitely have a big question mark when it comes to FP and what's going to happen with him in his future. But let's get to the final moment. The core four at Pops, they're all cheersing, and it was really funny because they make fun of the fact that Archie's like, let's cheers, and we're like, don't.
Like, no!
Archie's, yeah, they're like, don't cheers. He's not allowed to cheers anymore.
Yeah.
And he's like, honestly, I know the last time I did this, like, you almost got fake murdered and it was like a fucking shit show, but let's end our high school years on a high note. And Jughead's like, are we just gonna ignore the fact that me and Archie might not even graduate with like our shit?
Yeah.
And it was really cute because like the
cute.
girls were like, Betty's like, we got you, fam, don't worry, like we'll make sure that you guys graduate. And Veronica like goes in, she's like, you will eat and you will sleep and you will study and you will win and you're gonna get it, don't even worry, we're gonna win. And I was like, okay, like they're gonna just be like supportive, whatever. And then it shows Kevin at the very end randomly coming in to tease the musical episode, which we're expecting for the next episode of Riverdale, where he's like, you want to go join the variety show? And they're like, okay, Kevin. Then they pull him in and they like sit down.
Like it was such a weird ending to like all of this shit, and like the music was like dun 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 dun.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, okay, like it was like so random. The music.
I was like literally, like the editor's notes was like, do not put anything scary or mysterious in the zoom out.
Suspenseful, yeah.
Like, because I was looking, I was like, oh, it's like a back shot of them on the outside. Maybe there's like a lurking person in the corner. I'm like, no, they had to make like some goofy Goof Troop music in the background to make sure that you knew that it was just like, this is the end.
So that's it. It seems like the next 5 or 6 episodes I think that we have left are going to be strictly high school. It's their senior year. Let's enjoy the last 6. I'm so lit for that. I'm so excited. Barchi forever. Oops, did I say that?
Ooh, who said that? Anybody? So before we get into your comments, I have a few questions to ask you, MB, and also ask our listeners. Number one, are you telling me that DuPont did all of this to be a teacher at Stonewall?
So I took it as like he did it all for the Baxter Boys, like to be the writer.
But all of that for like he's not even living like the high life. He's not like going.
I know what you mean. I know.
You know what I mean? Like he's a simple teacher. Like why?
Yeah.
That didn't make any sense to me. There was like no real reason for him to do all that.
If they set him up like that, like this jet setter guy is coming to school. He's gonna teach us now. He's like a millionaire. But I don't think they set him up like that. So you're right. It's like why would he?
Because if he was like that, then I'd be like, okay, there's like so much more for him to lose. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Like then you would kill yourself, just like anybody in real life, like all these fucking Bernie Madoffs and whatever. Like when they get got in those moments, they like something tragic happens to them. They're like, okay, I gotta kill myself. Another question that I have, which is a huge plot hole in my opinion.
Yeah, this is the biggest one, I think.
Bitch, how is no one going to jail for Jonathan's death? Did we forget?
So he is dead for real, right? Like he did.
He's dead for real. Or are we gonna forget that this fucking poor black guy is like killed him off like
and
for no reason?
No one's gonna talk about that?
Yeah,
why?
No one's gonna talk about it.
Why don't you use his death to put them in jail?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, he's literally dead. Like he's actually dead. They don't talk about recovering a body. They don't they talk about anything.
I don't know. Unless like he really wasn't dead. Unless like they faked that. Like he really did have food poisoning and he just wasn't around.
But even Betty was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like even that moment when she tries to explain it. It's a big plot hole.
And if he really is dead and they didn't like put them away for his death, guys, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why can't you write a proper story? I don't understand.
Because then the alternative is keep him as one of the people that get interrogated. And then be done with it. You know what I mean? Like just have that moment where you're able to say like, oh, John, like he didn't even get any speaking parts. He just got killed off and that was it.
I don't know. That was huge miss.
Huge miss. The next question is Charles and Chick.
Yeah, I know.
Charles and Chick. Big question mark. It was asked a lot in the comments as well.
And we were talking about this offline too. And I think like we both agree. I think I was always down to have Charles be good. But obviously that big scene in the beginning of the season with him and Chick and like how they're boyfriends and like whatever.
Right.
You know, at this point, I feel like Charles has helped Betty and the crew so many times. And he's come in handy and like he's been so clutch for the Corps.
Exactly.
So I can't see him now turning around and being like, yo, I had this master plan to like fuck you guys over. Like I just can't see that happening. And that's so stupid if that's the case.
Yeah. And that's my frustration at this point is like I want to really like and trust him. But knowing that there's this overarching situation, I'm like, he wouldn't have done all that stuff for Betty and...
unless they're not going there anymore, J-Lag. Like, maybe they're just not... Like, they introduced it, and then maybe they're like, fuck it. Like, let's not go there. Like, let's just
But how could any of us forget that? Like,
I don't know.
We can't just forget that they had a romance moment in jail. Like, that's pretty big. That's a huge moment to miss.
It was huge. I just feel like I would just hate it. Like, he's been so nice to them, and he's such a cute part in their family. Like, for him to turn evil now, it's just... It's so extra. It just doesn't feel right. Yeah.
It'd be stupid. We already talked about Donna getting no justice. That's bullshit. We also talked about why didn't Donna just side up with Jugs to take down DuPont together.
And I think we did talk about this in one of the podcasts recently where I said, I want the students to like line up with Bughead and take down DuPont. And I was going to be down for that. But you're right. Like, that's not what happens at all. She doesn't side with Jughead. She wants to kill him instead. And so, you know, I don't know. Like, none of that really adds up to me.
Yeah. And the final question that I have is, now that we know that FP/Skeet Ulrich is leaving the show, how do we think FP's going to exit? Because it ends off, this episode at least ends off with him having a great relationship with his dad. Like, it's hard for me to believe that he's now going to dip on Jughead as well. So my assumption is he going to get killed off? Are they going to murder him now? And that becomes the plot point for season 5? Like, what do you think is going to happen now?
I don't know. I think they're just going to phase the parents out. Honestly, like, I think when we come back in season 5, their lives are going to be like a flash forward where we're not even going to miss the parents, you know? So I don't know whether or not like him and Alice go on like a cruise for the rest of their life, or like she becomes like a Netflix like producer on like crime documentaries.
They like move to LA or something.
Right? Yeah. Like there's so many possibilities, but I think really if they do a flash forward, we won't even notice that they're gone because it's going to be about the kids and like their future. So
fair. Hopefully, I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens, because now that everything's kind of tied up, I don't even know what that could look like. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about some comments from the listeners. Really quickly, we have at Matt 678047090.
That's my bank code.
Saying it was exactly like the ending of season 3 where Penelope explained everything that happened, but it was a bit better this time. The whole explanation around Mr. Chipping / Moose was very convoluted, and I lost interest halfway through that explanation. The happy ending was off-putting. I was expecting something ridiculous like Kevin to jump through Pop's window. Also, this whole Jughead death storyline is based around the Stonies hitting Jughead in the head with a rock, hard enough to be unconscious, but not hard enough to be killed. It's just a little too convenient, even for Riverdale.
Yeah,
agreed.
I think in all, and he makes such a good point, but I think in all of this, all the things that I had to really like believe and go along with, I did go along with him getting hit by a rock and not dying.
Yeah.
You know?
No,
like that was the one part
yeah.
I had to go with and believe.
You had to like
that's the foundation of this story. So like
the
I
whole
have to
story
believe it, you know?
is him not dying by this rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
At Alex Sunshine N says, I didn't like this episode, and I do like classic mystery novels. I just don't like badly written ones like the Stonewall storyline. At this point, I'm just watching, hoping for Barchi. So
hell yeah,
you got one other person, MB, looking for you. Looking out for
I
you.
Totally agree, and I do think if you listen to our first episodes of this season, we were both very, very excited for this Secret Society storyline. We were like so lit on it. I was like, this is the perfect storyline to have in a season 4. I was buying it. I definitely think they made very, very big mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
But I think the foundation of like the Secret Society storyline was sick to play with. They just fucked it up, in my opinion.
They just fucked it up for sure.
Yeah.
Jiffy Pop Culture says, totally understand that those that don't like classic mystery novels would hate tonight's episode, but I liked it. I needed everything explained, and they mostly did that.
It's true. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did what they could with what they made. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
It's like, we just have to go along with it, because at this point we're not getting anything else, you know? So it's just like, all right, I guess this is Riverdale, you know?
Yeah.
At Shoney5 on it says right off the top, the slowest episode ever. So crap. That's it. End of the story. At Postmaster Radio says, was it similar to the reveal of last season's big villain, or just too complicated? I don't know, but I don't know about you, but as complex as this whole thing was, I like it. To me, it seems like they did a better job of tying everything together this season versus last season. Did this mystery improve because of how it was able to tie everything up?
I definitely agree. So much better than last season. 100%. 100%.
It didn't come out of complete left field. Penelope being the Black Hood was a little out of left field.
Yeah.
A little crazy. And the way that it all ended was like, what? Okay, we're going to have a dinner party? Like, what the hell? So the way this kind of like ramped to the moment, it makes sense. Still didn't make 100% sense, but fine, we'll take it. At Sally Claire D says, Jughead's opening monologue sounds like something self-isolating. Someone self-isolating with coronavirus. 2 weeks with no sunlight, with no sense of time or its passing. That's got to be what limbo feels like, right?
Yeah,
and
that was the best comment of the night, I think.
Comment. I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, that's jokes.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get into your recap roundups, let's do ours.
Recap roundups.
Best moment.
What was your best moment?
I think my best moment, I think the episode was a good episode, but I do have to say the ending at Pops, the core 4 coming back together plus Kevin, the hopefulness of the last 6 episodes. It's all going to be senior year. I'm ready for it. I'm excited. And I did like that ending because it is going to, it's the start of something that's not about Jughead being dead. So
yeah, agreed. My best moment's going to go to Brett getting the beat down from FP and Jughead. It was very satisfying. It was probably one of the most satisfying things to watch.
Yeah,
this fucking perverted loser kid. Yeah, I wish we saw him get his ass kicked, to be honest.
WTF moment.
What was your WTF moment?
WTF moment, I think it's going to go to Barchi still, like, continuing the charade. Because I was like...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, like, I thought this was over. Like, I thought it was just, like, one kiss, one moment, forever. That's going to stay in my mind, beautifully ingrained. But they kept going on with it, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, like, why are you guys making this a thing though? Like,
They don't need to keep it going.
yeah,
but they
that was
kept
kind of
it going.
shocking. Yeah.
Yeah. My WTF moment, I was like kind of waffling between two, but I'll say DuPont jumping out the window.
For sure.
It was a little bit of a pathetic kind of ending for him. The same exact thing that we've already seen like 4 episodes beforehand. If Chipping didn't jump out the window, then I would have been like, oh shit, he like does not want to tell the truth. But because we'd already seen it, and because they made it so obvious that they had an extra jump out the window instead of like a 65-year-old man, I was like, this is too much. Like I thought it was too ridiculous for me.
MVP.
Who's your MVP?
MVP is gonna go to Betty with the good hair.
Betty with the good hair.
I think
she's
you
mine
gotta,
too.
you know, we both have the same MVP. It's gonna be Betty. She owned it. Like, no matter what you say about Jughead, like, Betty did everything. Betty had to sit through thinking that he was dead. Betty had to go to the corner. Like, she did everything, you know? Like,
she had to
had
suffer.
the easy part. So
He was like sitting in a bunker. She was like suffering with like the fucking
she freaking
everything.
set up a live stream, homie.
Like
in the middle of that shit, this girl had to fucking set up a live stream.
The bitch had to pretend to cry about her dead boyfriend at a fake funeral. Like, let's take that shit in. Like, and that's the thing. While this whole episode did cover everything that we needed to understand, you also have to take back the fact that everyone had to fake lie.
Dude,
for
she had to kiss
minimum
Archie and
3
not
weeks.
have sex with him. Like, that must be really hard.
That must have been hard.
Like,
Hashtag
come on.
Barchi Rising.
LVP.
Who's your LVP?
LVP is gonna be yours, so you can go ahead and say it.
Mine is gonna say, I have a couple. The first one is Mr. Chipping for not saying shit to Jughead before he jumped out the window. And I'd say Grandpa Jones for not saying to shit even after Jughead came to fucking see him the first time around. I'm like, what's up with these cowardly fucking adults not being able to act like normal people and tell people the truth? Jughead almost got killed. Like, if Jughead actually died, it'd be all because of Mr. Chipping and Jughead, like, and FP Jones, like Grandpa Jones. It's just, it was kind of a weak sauce moment for both of these full-grown adults just being full cowards, like stupid. What was your best line?
Best line is gonna go to Jughead, and when he's saying, because in all of your plotting, all your lurid conspiring, and your brilliance, you didn't kill me, bitches. You didn't kill me. And it's true. Like, I love how the way he said it. He's like, but you fucking couldn't kill me. Like, you set up this whole thing. You planned every single thing to a T, and still the main thing, you didn't kill me. Like,
minus the actual murder that you were supposed to be responsible for.
Yeah.
My best line is gonna go to the end where I was talking about where Betty and Jughead are talking in the bunker, and Jughead says, I feel, and Betty says, cheated? I know. We'll find a meaning to all of this at some point, okay? And like I said, I feel like this is a moment where the writers are low-key kind of saying, we know our story's cray-cray, and we know you guys might feel a little cheated, but there's some silver lining in all of this, which is it's over. That's the most important thing about it, is it's done. Okay, our listener roundups, we got at Riverdale the CW, saying best moment, Jughead and FP taking brass knuckles to Brett. MVP was Jughead for having more of a dramatic death than Midge. True. WTF moment is, are we going to discuss Jonathan being dead, which we did on this podcast, so I hope you guys feel the same about how we felt about it. LVP, Jonathan for not checking Jughead's pulse. And best line, shut up, I got the conch, from Jughead. That was a big one for everybody.
That was a big line, yeah.
At Matt678074790 says, LVP Donna, I thought her having her grandmother as one of the 4 was interesting, but by the end of the episode, I just really didn't care anymore to connect the dots about her motivations, and I really didn't understand it either. I agree with you in that regard, where like it's almost like sometimes Riverdale tries to confuse you, so you just give up. You know what I mean? Like,
no, but it's true, and I think when you confuse your audience, it really shows how weak your writing is, because you want to intrigue your audience. That's different, but confusion
intrigue is different.
Is like you're throwing all of these wild cards into the picture, and now everyone's like dude, I'm done. Like
Like
also your
what?
audience
Yeah.
isn't like, you're not watching Homeland. You're not watching this crazy like Game of Thrones show. So you
Yeah.
have to understand that people aren't going to be as like in it. Don't make it too complicated. Just be
Right.
simple.
Like I said, the fact that you guys had to spend an entire episode explaining this murder mystery
Like scene by scene.
just goes to
scene by
show that
scene.
like you really didn't close up those things
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
Like it should have had to speak for itself. I shouldn't have to have a breakdown like murder for dummies from Riverdale writers, you know. His WTF moment was Jughead was knocked unconscious, but within half a second of waking up was able to assess the situation and decide he didn't want to go to the hospital. Agreed. We talked about that. Jiffy Pop Culture says MVP Betty Cooper for her epic takedown of Donna at the end. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily. WTF moment, Charles being integral to the whole scheme since he was supposedly, along with his lover chick, hates Betty, hates Jughead and the Coopers and wants to take them all down. This is an assumption from him.
Yeah.
And then best moment, the core four plus Kevin laughing at Pops at the end like actual teenagers. More please. And best line, I had to replay Jughead barking shut up to DuPont several times. At Nancy River Drew says best moment, the takedown in the locked room. Crazy moment, WTF moment was learning who Donna was. MVP, hashtag Bughead Obs, my detective duo. LVP, the Stonies. Best line, literal blood on my hands when Betty's talking about waking up from her dream.
Yeah.
At Postmaster Radio says best moment, pretty much the entire episode for ending this madness. WTF moment, finding out who Donna's grandmother was and what her true motivations were. MVP, Bughead, best mystery solving duo there is. LVP, all of Stonewall, best line, shut up, I have the conch by Jughead. That is the episode. We are ending and closing this chapter of our lives. I'm so happy. Before we finish off this podcast, I have a few announcements. First of all, we have our contest going right now for a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card and a pop socket. To enter, all you need to do is rate and comment on our iTunes page and you'll be entered in the draw. We are extending this contest to the end of Riverdale Season 4, so you still got time to enter. I'd like to take this time to thank our patrons of the episode, our Rewinder Squad, White Nicole, Faith, Lit Rewinders, Tina Ann, Sarge, Serena, Soleil, Kate, and Jessica, and our Mommy Rewinders, Becca, Sarah, Tamala, and Grace.
Thanks, guys. If you would like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind. If you join, you get access to all things Recap Rewind, exclusive contests, content, and updates.
And also make sure you guys are checking us out on all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. And also you guys can find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iTunes. Like, subscribe, follow, review, and comment to stay engaged with us at Recap Rewind. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Wow.